Hello class, and welcome to our notes on circumference of circles. Our standard today is 7.G.4. Remember that means 7th grade Geometry Standard 4. And for this standard, the portion that we're going to be doing is know the formulas for circumference of a circle and use them to solve problems. We have quite a bit of vocabulary today, so make sure you pause this video if need be to make sure you get all of these words written down. We have circle, the set of all points on a plane that is the same distance from a point. Center, the point in the middle of a circle. Radius, the distance from the center to any point on the circle. Diameter, the distance across the circle through the center. Remember that radius is half of the diameter. So if you put two radii right next to each other, they would make up one diameter. Circumference, the distance around the circle. And our formula there is C equals pi d or C equals 2 pi r. Remember, pi d is pi times diameter, or 2 pi r, 2 times pi times the radius. And of course that works because the radius is half the size of the diameter, so two of them will make up the same size. And then finally we have pi, which you remember from last year, the ratio of the circumference divided by the diameter. We use 3.14 as our approximation for pi, but remember that's not pi exactly, it is an approximation. And our last word down here is semicircle, half of a circle. Go ahead and make sure you get all of that written down, and then we'll go ahead and take a look at the next word. Next page. Okay, circumference of circles. And the first one, what we're going to be doing is the diameter of the circle is 20 feet, find the radius. Remember we talked about that the radius stops halfway, so it'll be from the outside of the circle to the center. So if we take a look at our steps, radius is the diameter cut in half. So we take 20, cut it in half, divide by 2, and we end up with 10. The radius is 10 feet. Notice we have our answer in a complete sentence. The radius of the circle is 7 meters. Find the diameter. So again, we have the little piece of the radius here, and we want to go all the way across. So we know that the diameter is going to be twice the radius. Plugging our numbers in, we're doing 2 times 7. So we have an answer of 14. And of course, we want our words. The diameter is 14 meters. So be careful you don't forget that. Okay, student practice. Go ahead, copy these down and try out these problems. Press play when you're ready to see your answers. Okay, let's go ahead, welcome back, and look at problems 1 and 2. Number 1, all we're doing is cutting that 16 in half. We end up with an answer of 8. Number 2, we have 9, so we need to double that. We end up with an answer of 18. Notice on both of these we have our words, centimeters and yards. Okay. Let's go ahead and go to the next teacher example. Find the circumference of a flying disc. Use 3.14 for pi. Now this is important. Make sure you're paying attention to what the directions say to use for pi. If they say 3.14, or as in problem B, you'll say use 22 over 7. So make sure you're reading those directions. Okay, now, if we look here, we notice we're given the radius. So we want to use the radius formula. C equals 2 pi r. Now we can go ahead and plug our numbers in. We already have the 2. For pi, we're plugging in 3.14. And finally, for our radius, we have 5 inches. Okay, we're going to go ahead and multiply all those together. And we'll find out we have 31 and 4/10. The circumference is about 31 and 4/10 inches. Notice they say about, and that is of course because we used our approximation for pi. Okay, let's go ahead and look down at problem B. So find the circumference of the watch face. Use 22 over 7 for pi. And this time we've been given the diameter, so I want to use the diameter formula. One thing you will also want to keep in mind is pay attention to what it's asking for. If it says leave your answer in terms of pi, that means you don't have to multiply by pi, you just leave pi on the end. So make sure you're reading those. In this case, they want us actually to solve all the way. So let's go ahead and write down our formula. For pi, we're going to plug in our fraction, 22 over 7. And then for diameter, we're going to plug in 28 millimeters. Okay, of course, we're going to put 28 over 1. Notice here I can cross cancel the 7 and the 28. So this will end up becoming 4, and this one would become 1. Now I can simply do 22 times 4. And with 88, the circumference is about 88 millimeters. Go ahead and try these three out on your own. Notice when you're given the radius, we want to use the radius formula. When you're given the diameter, you want to use the diameter formula. Notice you can also use either 3.14 or 22 over 7. So if you'd rather work with decimals, you may do so, or if you prefer to work with fractions, you have an option. Okay, let's go ahead, pause your video, and press play when you're ready to see your answers. Okay, welcome back. And taking a look, we have our answers here. Number 3, about 12 and 56 centimeters. Number 4, about 44 feet. And number 5, about 28 and 26 inches. Teacher example 3. The circumference of the roll of caution tape decreases 10.5 inches after the construction worker uses some of the tape. Which is the best estimate of the diameter of the roll after the decrease? Okay, so notice right away we need to subtract. We've got our original circumference right here. Subtract 10.5, and we'll end up with 20 and 9/10 inches. Now, I'm looking for diameter, so I'm going to use my formula for diameter right here and plug my numbers in. For pi, we're going to plug in 3.14. And then this time, I don't have the diameter, I have the circumference, so I'm going to plug the circumference in as well. Okay, next I would draw my fence, circle my variable, and use my inverse operations to solve. Move that 3.14 so we get diameter by itself. Okay, also notice the directions say which is the best estimate. So we're going to go ahead and round to make these numbers easier to work with. Divide both sides by 3, and we end up with an answer of 7. So the correct answer in this case would be B. Watch out when you're doing a multiple choice question. Make sure your answer is a multiple choice letter. Okay, go ahead and have you try this one out. Same problem, so notice the original diameter. And the question is, what if the circumference of the roll of tape decreases 5 and 25 inches? Estimate the diameter of the roll after the decrease. So just a reminder, remember your first step is to subtract and find the new circumference. Then you can plug your numbers into your formula. Go ahead and press play when you're ready to see your answers. Okay, let's take a look here. We have about 9 inches. Again, notice it says estimate, so we're not going to be working with decimals. Final teacher example 4. A semicircle is 1/2 of a circle. Find the perimeter of the semicircular region. Okay. Now, if we take a look here, we've got our half of a circle. So, if we were finding the perimeter or the circumference of an entire circle, we'd use our formula. But notice we're finding the circumference of just this portion right here. So, the straight side is 6 meters long. The distance around the curved part is 1/2 the circumference of a circle with a diameter of 6 meters. So I can use my formula, and this time I'm putting it over 2 because I'm cutting it in half. I want half of the full circumference. I can plug pi in, 3.14, or 22 over 7, and I can plug my diameter in at 6 meters. Okay, next I need to do my multiplication, 3.14 times 6, and then divide by 2. And I will find 9 and 42 hundredths. And then of course putting my words in there, I have the 6 because remember I also have this portion. So 9 and 42 hundredths is right here, plus a 6 here. My final answer is 15 and 42 hundredths meters. Okay, these are the final student practices. So go ahead and do these problems here. Notice you're finding the half the circumference. So you're finding the circumference of this part. When you get your answer, don't forget to add the diameter on. Be careful on this problem. We don't have a diameter, so we need to add the diameter on, so you're going to have to think about adding this section on as well. Go ahead and press pause, then press play when you're ready to see your answers. Okay, welcome back. Let's take a look. We have number 7, about 5 and 14 hundredths feet. Number 8, about 18 centimeters. And number 9, about 77 and 1/10 inches. Okay, hopefully you were able to get those all correct. Make sure you do go back and re-watch any portion of the video that you feel that you need to. And then go on to Schoology and do your quiz. Have a great day.